You're listening to Power Talk, Berkeley Electric Cooperative's official broadcast about the cooperative, our communities, and ways to use energy wisely. And now, let's join our hosts for today's episode. Hello, and welcome to Power Talk. I am Mike Aponte, the Communications and Media Specialist here at Berkeley Electric Cooperative, and I am joined by Miss Libby Roig, the Director of Marketing and Communications. Welcome to the show, Libby.
Yeah, glad to be here. Hello, Low Country.
Another glorious day here in the Low Country.
At Camp Co-op.
There you go. Well, it's going to be a special day, speaking about Camp Co-op, because we've got one of the lead counselors here in studio. We have Miss Louise Meade as a special guest, who is the Vice President of Human Resources. She's in charge of keeping us all straight.
She is the glue that keeps us together.
I try. Libby, Micah, thank you so much for having me on the show today.
Yeah, definitely. Well, you know, Libby, we've got a storied veteran here at the co-op. You know, she's been here.
She knows where all the bodies are buried.
Yeah. We actually started about the same time. I think you're about 25 years in, somewhere in that neighborhood.
That's right.
And yeah. I'm right behind you at 24. She's just a
pup.
She's a baby.
A baby.
A pup, yeah, not even 5 years.
A young camper.
Yeah, yeah, y'all are the counselors, and I'm a camper.
Right. There you go.
Yeah, I don't know if you want me to go. Anyway. But, you know, you've dedicated more than 25 years of your career here at Berkeley Electric. You've had a career before that, I believe. Where were you? You were just up the road, not too far.
I was. And yes, I have been here for quite a while. I started in November of 1998. So, yes, I'm working on my 26 years. I cannot believe it has gone by so fast. But my career in HR, or personnel, as it was called way back then, actually started when I was 19 years old. I really didn't even realize that I was doing HR work. I started at an old manufacturing facility here in Moncks Corner. And it was a sewing factory that actually made clothing for JCPenney and Avon. Yeah. And if that doesn't date me.
Avon made clothes?
Avon, yes. That was even prior to the pretty little perfume bottles that everyone collected. They actually made clothing as well. So I know it sounds prehistoric, but literally my job, there was just
vintage.
It was just the 90s, so it wasn't that long ago.
I know. No, well, actually it was 70s actually. Yeah. But the applicants that came in, people that came in who wanted to work at the sewing factory, I actually went through the interview process with them, and I was responsible at 19 years old of having them do dexterity testing, because with that line of work, they literally had lines of sewing machines, and they had to go in and they put the clothing together by pieces.
Wow.
And that's how they got paid, by piece rate. So that was another part of my job. I had to go around, up and down all the sewing machines and get there. They stuck these little tickets on for every piece that they sewed together, and they would fill a sheet. And I had to calculate all the sheets, which actually would determine how much they got paid per day.
So you're personnel and payroll.
Yes.
Wow.
Yep.
Had to make sure they wouldn't sew their fingers together.
That would be me.
Yeah, you'd be surprised at the type of injuries that we saw as well.
Goodness.
But anyway, from that experience, I was hired at another manufacturing facility here in Moncks Corner. Actually, they're still in Santee Circle right now, but at the time they were Davol. And it was a manufacturing facility. It was a Fortune 100 medical manufacturer. So we made Foley catheters and surgical drainage tubing. Not anything you'd want to have used on you at all. But the same type of thing. I worked directly for the manager of HR. And so he showed me the ropes and taught me a lot. Basically the ins and outs of the HR business, but more importantly, how to read and understand people. Yeah. And my passion even back then was to serve and assist employees, even at a young age. And so that's when I figured out that's what I wanted to do for my career, is to be able to help people. And it was just exciting to be a part of inviting people to work someplace, giving them livelihood. And so because that just really grew in me, and I found that was my passion. I went to school because I had not completed college, and went for a business and psychology degree, because back then they didn't have HR degrees.
Right.
It was just, personnel, and it wasn't even it wasn't a department head of the organization back then. But anyway, I went ahead, and as I was going through school, because I did have a child, and I was working full time, so I was having to do all that part time.
Wow.
And but I did join way back then. They even had SHRM, which is the Society for Human Resources Management, and so I've been a member of that organization all these years.
Wow.
And through that, I just did a lot of reading on my own, and asking a lot of questions. And so that's what really prepared me for my role here. But I spent 20 years which was then CR Bard. And someone that works here, John Villaponte, who was, I think at the time he was the safety manager.
Oh.
We were in the JCs together way back then, that civic organization. And he told me about this opening. And so I applied and interviewed and got the job.
The rest is history.
Yeah.
Well, one thing I think is kind of interesting, and correct me if I'm wrong, you mentioned your boss initially was a man, that HR used to be a male-dominated profession, and
Right.
now it's female-dominated. I think that's interesting.
And that is one of the points I was going to make. When I started, I was one of very few females in the profession. And so when I would go to
Trailblazer.
I know. Well, and not only that, but and now I have seen the whole transition going from totally male dominated to totally female dominated, and now it's making the swing.
Yeah.
It's coming back full circle. Now that HR does have a seat at the executive table, and there are more folks. Everybody's interested in wanting to be involved in HR.
Well, and we want to talk about your team in a second, but your team reflects that trend. I mean, you're kind of half and half, male, female.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Because of the fact that we're a big group now, but I wanted to make sure that our team reflected the diversity that we have in our workforce, which is also a reflection of what we have in our membership.
Yeah.
So that's very important.
Yeah.
Well, our communications little group sort of did the same thing. I mean, it was sort of a male-dominated thing, even when I started, there was a lot of guys in that position, and now I am surrounded entirely by women.
It's a great feeling, isn't it?
Micah loves coming to work every day.
They tell me exactly what I need to be doing every minute of the day. There's never a question of where I should be or what I should be working on.
Yeah.
It's very helpful.
You have a lot of direction.
It's very helpful.
I would like to add that most of the direction does not come from me.
Well, you said you had a degree in psychology. Can I talk to you about my relationship with my father?
Yeah.
Actually, speaking of my dad, he was. I grew up around HR. He was the HR director for the VA hospital in several different states.
Oh, I didn't know that,
Yes.
Micah.
So, yeah, a matter of fact, the one up in Columbia is where he ended his career. So he's the Dorn Veterans Hospital up there in Columbia. So
Important work.
long history in HR, and I've been around it my whole life. So I've been HR adjacent my whole life.
That must be why you're so creative, because he must have come home with so many stories. Yeah.
Well, we mentioned your team. You have an awesome team. What all do they do to help support Berkeley Electric employees, and how are they possibly different from some other co-op HR teams?
Right. Well, I tell you, my team, my goodness, we are so blessed to have the board of directors that trust and what we recommend to them as far as what's best for the co-op. We bring data and information to assist them in making business decisions. And through that, I've seen my vision come to fruition over the years. When I started at the end of '98, there was only one other person in HR besides my position, and that was a benefits specialist. And soon, we're about to be a team of 11, which is very unique for other cooperatives and lots of businesses. But with our stupendous growth that we've had here and the changes in our workforce, additional laws and regulations, and the additional responsibilities that we have now in the department, that is why our group has grown. So besides the benefits specialist, we have an HR specialist, and right now that's Juan Diaz, and he specializes in recruiting for us right now, because there's always there's always things changing.
Yeah, it's a competitive job market too. So
Definitely. And with the laws and regulations that we have, with our policies and procedures, and a lot of the work that we do in our safety department, we have a compliance specialist now who he helps with both sides of that. Yeah. A director of professional development, and she has 2 on staff, and a director of safety and technical training, and he has 2 on staff and is interviewing for a 3rd. So we have seen a lot of growth in the districts, and so we've been fortunate to also enlarge and update our district offices, and when we also constructed this building a couple of years ago, we were very fortunate in that we built a medical clinic.
Yeah.
And so we do have a nurse that's part of our occupational health group. She does not work for Berkeley Electric, but she works part-time, 2 days in Goose Creek and 2 days in Monk's Corner. And that has been such a great help for our employees. So we have her right here whenever we do pre-employment screenings and we do DOT physicals. If we have injuries, our workers' comp cases, flu shots, ergonomic assessments, it's just been really great to have her with us.
But we love Nurse Lynette, and I know I saw her for my COVID reentry back when we were in the throes of COVID. So it was great timing to have her on staff.
And I actually remember when we sort of did a best practices tour, we went and visited a whole bunch of other co-ops, and we found out that there was other co-ops that were employing, a nurse, or actually a couple of them had like a full-blown clinic. But I mean, the benefit, it might seem, a little counterintuitive, but I mean, by having a nurse on site, and available to our employees, that cuts down on time away from the job. I mean, because if you've been to the doctor, and we all have, you've got a 10 o'clock appointment, and by about 11 o'clock, 11:05, you're twiddling your thumbs. And
right, it's a waiting game.
Yeah, it's still a waiting game. So, I mean, these folks don't have to drive. They don't have to sit there waiting. And they can get seen and get the help that they need. Well,
and having a familiar face around, I didn't realize this was a thing. People don't go to the doctor. So having someone on site who, if you might be having an issue, you could chat with.
Exactly.
Micah doesn't go to the doctor.
Micah.
It's been so long, they dropped me as a patient.
We have amazing benefits, Micah. You do. Yeah. Take advantage of them.
But having that familiar face, I think might encourage people, unlike Micah,
right,
to go.
And she does visit all the districts, and so she's building these relationships, and so employees trust her, and it's
as I mentioned,
well.
Got ladies telling me what I need to be doing. And once again, very similar career path to you. When I started, I was the sole person in my department.
That's right.
And now I've got so many women around me telling me, so many extra coworkers, so many. I'm so lucky.
Speaking of coworkers, Louise, why is it important for our member owners of Berkeley Electric to invest in the co-op's employees? I know you were an employee advocate, and so why is it important for us to keep our folks?
Well, I think that when we have our employees that are well trained, and we can provide for them competitive pay and benefits. When they and their families are taken care of, they're going to do the very best job that they can to provide our members with excellent, reliable service, keep the lights on, and these employees will also want to stay with us throughout their careers, right? We've been here how many years?
A few.
Right.
Couple.
That's right. And so, that's what we want. And we want to be one of the best places to work, not only in South Carolina, but across the country. Because for a lot of our professional positions, we do recruit from across the country in many instances.
Yeah, definitely. Yep.
Well, that was a very good segue, because that's going to be our next topic. Because Berkeley Electric participated for the first time back in 2022 in the best places to work in South Carolina. And lo and behold, we won! We were recognized as one of the best places to work in South Carolina. Yeah, so, Louise, just sort of run it down for us. What does it mean to be one of the best places to work? And I guess, what does that process include?
Sure. Okay, so the best places to work is a survey that measures key areas that make up an organization's culture. And so these things that they assess range from again, our compensation and benefits, and anything from that to trust in our senior leadership and everything in between. It also measures the level of employee engagement, and it's composed actually of 36 different questions that's divided into 8 sections. So you have leadership, HR practices, comp, benefits, teamwork and relationships, and workplace procedures and corporate social responsibility, which again, one of our 7 cooperative principles.
Yeah.
And this is one thing that is unique to us working in the co-op, because we do provide them opportunities to be able to participate in things in our communities and get out of the normal routine of what they may be doing. And so this survey is strictly confidential, and it's administered by a third party called the Best Companies Group. Also, not only do the employees fill out a survey, but even prior to them receiving this email, and we are in the process of doing this right now. There's several of us in HR. We have to go through an exhaustive 17-page questionnaire that we submit directly to them. And then once that's received, then our employees receive a survey that they email directly to each employee. And that comes directly from that group.
Wow.
Yeah.
So it's highly scientific, very thorough.
Yes. And they ask the same questions, and it's the same questions that go out to all companies across the U.S.
Yeah. And we're going to talk more about some of the key takeaways, but it's such valuable data for us as an employer to have and to be able to act on and just be aware of what's going on in our employees' minds. And as part of this process, we're not allowed to offer any kind of incentive for the employees to fill out the survey.
That is correct. Yeah, that is correct. We can ask them to participate, and I think what we have shown the employees is that it is confidential, but we are reading them, and staff has been studying the results, and we share the results with our employees, and we have been making, for the past 2 years since we've been doing this study, from their feedback, we're taking all this into consideration, and we are making decisions based off of the information they provide to us. We can't make things better unless we hear from them and know what it is that they prefer.
Yeah. And Mike has said that day one since he came aboard as president and CEO, Mike Fuller, that, hey, open door. We don't know something's an issue until you say it's an issue.
That's exactly right. So we want to hear it all. Good, bad, and indifferent. So,
well, and you said one of the key things is trying to increase trust. And so what I want to see is, Libby, since Mike's your CEO, I want to see you do a trust fall with Mr. Fuller. And do you trust him enough to catch you? That's what we want to see.
Oh no, I'll catch him.
I think that's the next video we need to make from
Ask Mike. Yeah, we'll let him fall. I mean, I'll catch him.
Right.
Freudian slip. Well, folks, if you're just tuning in, we are talking all things HR with Miss Louise Meade, the Director or VP, of HR here at Berkeley Electric Cooperative. And we're talking about all the things that go into human resources and making it a little bit of a better place for our employees to work and keeping them happy, because at the end of the day, if you've got happy employees, like you said, they want to stay at the co-op, which benefits the members, because then we don't have to keep retraining folks. We don't have to spend money on searching for replacements. And, you don't want to be the widget in the machine, but a happier employee is a more productive employee.
That's exactly right.
You want to feel valued for the work that you do, and that's the job that's presented to you, making us feel all warm and fuzzy.
Right. So. Right. So, Louise, what are some of the key takeaways that we've had now, having gone through 2 cycles of surveys and getting ready to start our 3rd?
Sure. Well, I can tell you overwhelmingly with both of the surveys, one great thing that employees resoundingly responded with is that they feel like they're part of a family. That spells out our culture, that we are family oriented, and they feel comfortable and they all enjoy their jobs here, which is great to read about. One thing that we did concentrate on that we're working to improve is we need to do a better job at listening to all employees. we want our employees to be engaged. We also need to make sure that management is engaged as well, and executive staff specifically. And so from that, we immediately wanted to do something so that employees could understand that we're serious about this. And so we brought in a group that we've worked with on leadership development, David McNair and his staff, and we started with an intentional leadership program that's literally going into, it's a 2-year program, and so we're on year 2. Awesome. And we also set goals for us to rotate through the districts. And HR specifically, we have it on the calendar. We're spending a lot more time in each of the districts to have a lot more face-to-face time with employees, building relationships, and just seeing the ins and outs of the jobs. We have a lot of jobs.
Yeah,
a lot of jobs. So, we want to build relationships and build trust with employees. So, hopefully, with the feedback that we're giving them, that they're understanding that this is fact. So.
And we've implemented some changes too, offered flexible scheduling, hybrid where it's available, changes to some of our PTO. And so all these things were brought up by employees, and we've made positive changes after hearing their feedback, right?
That is exactly right. For new hires who are particularly wanting a better work-life balance, we're fronting the new hires some vacation now, so that's assisted them in a lot of instances, increasing communications on our health and benefit education. Sick leave buyback now we lowered that age to 55 for those who are interested in retiring early. And additional wellness initiatives. We have folks that are more interested in more specific wellness education, and we're going to pull together a wellness committee. I think Brandon is heading up that, and so he's going to be pulling some folks together to concentrate on more specific things this year, like we're going to be doing breast cancer screenings and some cooking demonstrations.
Okay.
So yeah,
All right.
Yeah.
So
let me know.
I'm going to try
Be there
to
to
shake
eat.
it up a little bit. Yeah, right.
So, it takes a lot of effort to go through this survey process. What's the benefit to members and the value for going through this process?
Well, again, if we're instituting these changes and we have employees who are better trained, they know their jobs, they love their jobs, it's all going to reflect on how well we do their jobs for the members. We're here to serve them in every capacity, and being more socially responsible. All of these different things are the end result is for the members' benefit.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, too, I mean, one of the benefits that, like you had mentioned, is that our employees feel like we're family. And I mean, one of the things that makes the Berkeley Electric Cooperative different is that it is more connected with the communities. That is one of the things that we try to pride ourselves on, is being part of all of the different communities that we serve. And that sort of has to start at home. So, I mean, you've got to have your employees feel that way. Right. And I know that that's particularly a challenge because, like you said, we are growing at a very rapid pace. So when you go from a co-op that when I first started was probably in the 70,000 meter range or something like that, and now we're well over 100,000 meters, I mean, how do you continue to feel like the hometown co-op when you're becoming so large and the largest electric cooperative in our state out of the 20 or so that we have here?
And among the largest in the nation.
And among the largest in the nation. So, I mean, that presents a unique challenge on how you stay connected to the community, and that starts with the employee. And when the employee feels like they're part of a family, they sort of carry that over to the membership, I believe.
Right.
And our employees are so diverse. We have so many different types of jobs at the co-op. We're spread across 4 districts. Yeah. Each district has such a unique personality and dynamic. It's a real challenge, I know from a communication standpoint, to reach all those different employees, but to engage them, to hear from them. So,
right. And I think that that's what's helping. The more we can have face-to-face time with them and give them different opportunities, different outlets to be able for them to communicate to us and be responsive to that. I think that's where we're seeing a lot of positive changes in input. So.
Definitely.
Well, I mean, we've talked about you've had a storied career here in the HR industry. What's sort of, I guess, the biggest thing that you've seen, biggest change wise in your career? I know COVID was probably one of our defining moments for everybody.
A lot of times people think of the negative things from COVID, but I think COVID was the best thing that's happened to us, best thing that's happened to co-ops, because it made us immediately break out of our shell of the things that we've always done,
right.
because we've always done it, and we're a co-op, and this is, and thankfully, IT, everyone was so responsive to what we needed to do. Every department we worked cooperatively together. So excuse the pun, but that's what made the difference. And it forced us to think outside the box of how are we going to communicate? How are we going to continue with teaching our employees and moving forward with the changes that we had and our goals? And we pulled it off. And because of that, we've been able to expand the way that we do all sorts of things. But besides that, I think with all the years I've been in HR, the biggest thing is the generational differences. I think back in the day when I started, you had like the two groups of people. You had the traditionalists and the baby boomers, because those were such huge groups. Now we're dealing with 4 different generations.
All under one roof.
And literally. And, you've heard the old adage, the golden rule is that treat others as you'd like to be treated. That's how I grew up. For years and years. That's what you live by. Yeah. That's not true anymore. Yeah. You've got to treat people how they want to be treated, not how you want to be treated. Yeah. And so that's the secret, and that's what I talk to my team about, is that we've got to be open. We've got to remember all these 4 different generations, their motivation, their value system, it's 4 totally different things. And so how do we communicate to those 4 generations? How do we teach? How do we manage these different groups? I think that's what's so exciting. That's what's kept me in this business this long. People keep asking me, when are you going to retire? No, I'm not ready yet. But that's been the biggest challenge, and that's an exciting challenge to me.
Yeah. Yeah. And from a communication standpoint, that's something we very much strive to, whether it's employees or members, just to meet them where they are and respond in whatever way is most appropriate for that individual or that group. Yeah.
Well, in each one of those groups, they've sort of been informed by the ones before them and the way that cultures have changed. So, there's no right answer. There's no wrong answer.
Correct.
Because it's based on your experience, the way that you've dealt with things as you've grown up. And we've got some folks who've been sort of, well, that's the way we've always done it.
Right.
But and I think I have to agree with you about COVID. It did shake things up. Was it a very tough time for everybody? Yeah. But it did make you step back and take a look at the way that the co-op is run, the way that we interact with members, the way that we communicate with members, the way that the offerings that we have for our employees.
Sure.
Meeting, like you said, their needs by giving them flex time, remote work, loading some vacation up front to give them a little bit more of a chance to enjoy it without having to stay here for 24 years before you finally get 2 weeks vacation. We do way more than that, but
and it showed us how resilient we are. I had just started at Berkeley when COVID hit, but since then I've seen time and time again there's no challenge that the cooperative can't meet and overcome when it's thrown.
Well, we're getting close on time, but so you're in HR. What advice do you have for job seekers of any industry when you're getting ready to start your career?
Well, I tell you what, if I had to do it all over again, I would have asked so many more questions. But I tell you, people today and folks just now starting into their career, they have literally in the palm of their hands. They've got everything that they need right there in their phone. So, investigate, read, and ask lots of questions.
Well, folks, hopefully we've convinced you that Berkeley Electric is one of those places that you want to work if you're starting your career. And if you want to sign up for job alerts, you can go to our website at berkeleyelectric.coop. and click the careers link under the My Co-op menu. But that's going to do it for this edition of Power Talk. Thank you for tuning in. This is the official broadcast of your electric cooperative, and you can catch up on past episodes on our streaming platforms like Spotify, Apple, and iHeartRadio. And that's going to do it. Until next time, this has been Power Talk, signing off.